Hello guys, welcome. Hello guys, welcome to Ashutosh Conditioner. Now today we are going to start. The chapter name is body fluid and the circulation. So blood क्या होता है? A special connective tissue that circulate in the principal and the vascular system of man and other vertebrate consisting the fluid matrix and the plasma and the formed elements. Okay, and plasma क्या होता है? देखो plasma क्या होता है? The plasma and the plasma क्या होता है देखो the liquid the part of blood or lymph which is a straw colored and the viscous fluid and the constituting and the nearly by the 55% of the blood. Second, 90 to 92% of the plasma is water and 6 to 8% proteins. And third number है fibrinogen and the globulin and albumin are the major protein in the found in the plasma, and the fibrinogen is required in the blood clotting and the coagulation of blood, and the globulin involves in the defense mechanism of the body. Albumin helps in the osmotic balance of blood. Plasma also contains a small amount of minerals and the glucose and amino acid and lipids and etc. Plasma without clotting factor is called serum. Okay, erythrocytes क्या होता है देखो, also known as RBC and red blood cell, is the most abundant of the all cell blood. Okay, cell of the blood. And second number है 5 to 5.5 billion RBC found per million per mm in of 3 of the bloods produced from the red bones marrow in the adult, and the RBC devoid of nucleus in the most of the mammals, and the bioconcave in the shape and red in the color due to the presence of the complex conjugated and the protein called the hemoglobin, and 7 to 12 to 16 gram the hemoglobin present in the per ml of bloods and in a healthy adult. एक हेल्दी एडल्ट में कम से कम 100 ml या इतने ग्राम हीमोग्लोबिन पर दिन बनते हैं. ओके, इसका भी स्क्रीनशॉट ले लो. हाँ, हो गया स्क्रीनशॉट. उसके बाद क्या है, आरबीसी हैव एवरेज लाइफ स्पैन ऑफ 120 days एंड आफ्टर विच इज डिस्ट्रॉय इन द स्प्लीन. स्प्लीन इज द कॉमनली नोन एज द ग्रेवयार्ड ऑफ आरबीसीज. ल्यूकोसाइट क्या होता है? ऑल्सो नोन एज वाइट ब्लड सेल एंड WBC. दे आर द कलर ड्यू टू द लैक ऑफ हीमोग्लोबिन एंड दे आर nucleated and relatively lesser in the number, which average 6,000 to 8,000 in three of bloods. We have two main categories of WBC. First, granulocytes. A number है nucleophil, basophil and eosinophil. Okay, इसको भी याद रखना. उसके बाद हमारा है एग्रेनोसाइट्स. क्या होता है देखो, इसमें भी दो टाइप के होते हैं, लिम्फोसाइट, मोनोसाइट. देखो फिर होते हैं न्यूट्रोफिल्स. न्यूट्रोफिल्स में क्या होता है, 60 to 65% ऑफ द टोटल WBC आर फैगोसाइट्स इन द नेचर. बेसोफिल्स 0.5 to 1% secrete histamine and the serotonin and heparin and also involves the inflammatory reaction. Eosinophils and 2 to 3% of resist infection and also associate with the allergy infection reaction. And the lymphocyte, T cell and the B cell constitute the 20 to 25% and involves in the immune response of the body. Monocytes 10 to 15% becomes macrophages. Thrombocytes, also the known as the platelets, and produced from the fragmentation of megakaryocytes. Okay, and the blood normally contain 1,500,000 to 3,500,000 platelets 3 mm. Okay, मतलब mm 3 and involves in the releasing the thromboplastin and required to initiate from the blood circulation, मतलब blood coagulation. Okay, coagulation. अब ब्लड ग्रुप क्या होता है? द ब्लड टू ब्लड ग्रुपिंग मैकेनिज्म ABO and RS सिस्टम. ओके, एंड द ABO ग्रुपिंग को भी जान लेते हैं होता क्या है. देखो, द फर्स्ट नंबर में कह रहा है अ प्लाज्मा ऑफ डिफरेंट इंडिविजुअल कंटेंट टू नेचुरल एंटीबॉडीज एंड anti-A and anti-B. ABO grouping is the based on the presence of the absence of two two surface antigens and on the RBCs, namely A and B. In mismatched and transfusion, and the antigen of the donor react with the antigen and receptor to cause a reaction is called clumping and of the agglutination. Fourth number है person with the blood group O and O has antigen, hence can donate blood antibody and called universal donor. एंड उसके बाद देखा जाए तो आगे हमारा आता है person with blood group AB has no antibody in his plasma, hence receive the blood of anybody called universal recipient. ओके, रिसेप्टर भी कहते हैं. उसके बाद हमारा आता है आर एच ग्रुपिंग क्या होता है. तो another antigen RH antigen is similar to one present and the race monkey, and then hence the RH is also observed on the surface of the RBC's majority in nearly 80%. Second, the person with the RH antigen is said to be RH positive, and person without the antigen is said as negative RH factor. Okay, yeah. Person with Rh negative blood and the transfused plus with plus Rh blood forms the antigen body and that destroy the Rh plus RBC. A specialized case of the Rh incompatibility and mismatching has been observed between the Rh bond of the pregnant and the mother with the Rh plus blood of the fetus, and during the parturition the Rh plus fetal blood mixed with the Rh negative maternal blood, and hence the Rh body internal Rh antibody formed and in the mother blood. In the successive pregnancy the anti and the Rh body antibody formed from the mother's blood leaks into the fetal and destroy the Rh plus RBC. This caused the HDN and hemolytic disease in the newborn and or the erythroblastosis foetal. This can be prevented by the administering an anti-Rh antibody to the mother and at immediately after the delivery of the child. First child. Coagulation of bloods. The injury to the blood vessel due to the loss of blood and called the hemorrhage. Okay, and there is an intrinsic mechanism to stop, and the hemochromage is called homeostatic or coagulation of blood or blood clotting. Clot or the coagulum is formed the mainly of a network of threads called the fibrins, and in which dead and the damaged formed element of blood are trapped or entangled. Okay, fibrin is formed by the conversion of inactive fibrinogen in the plasma by an enzyme called the thrombobin. Thrombobin formed and the inactive thrombobin of the plasma due to the presence of enzymes thrombokinase. All these activation required the initial clotting factor and the thromboplastin, either the release from the injured tissue or the platelets. Calcium ions play a very important role in the coagulation of blood. Lymph क्या होता है? Lymph. The colorless mobile fluid and connective tissue drains in lymphatic capillaries from the internal spaces. कंपोजिशन देखो इसका, तो इट इज़ composed of fluid matrix plasma white blood corpuscles and or leukocyte and contain the less amount of proteins than the plasma devoids to RBC. Function क्या है? It drains the excess and the tissue fluid from the extracellular spaces back into the blood, and it contains the lymphocyte and antibodies. It transport digestive fats. ओपन सर्कुलेटरी सिस्टम क्या होता है देखो, found in the arthropod and the mollusca, and second number है blood from the heart pumped into the open surface in the body cavity called the sinuses. The body cavity remained filled the blood and lymph and called hemocoli. Closed circulatory system क्या होता है? Found in the annelid and the echinoderms and all chordatas, and the blood from the heart pumped into the definite blood vessel. Blood circulate in a wide network of blood vessels throughout the body, and the body circulate in a regulate manner. Heart and the circulation in the vertebrae. Fishes have two chamber heart with one atrium and one ventricle. 2. Amphibian and the reptilian has three-chambered heart with two arteria and one ventricle. Crocodile, the birds, mammals, possesses a four-chamber heart with two arteria and two ventricles. In fishes, two-chamber heart pumped deoxygenated blood to the gills for oxygenation and then the circulated to the body called single circulation. In amphibians and the reptilians, the left atrium received the oxygenated blood from the lungs and right atrium received the deoxygenated blood from the body and blood from the arteria pumped into the ventricle from which is mixed the blood pumped and into the body and incomplete double circulation. Sixth number है in birds and the mammals oxygenated and deoxygenated blood received by the left and the right artery respectively passed into the ventricle of others their side and the ventricle pumped in it out without any mixing up double circulation. Human circulatory system क्या है heart originated from the embryonic mesoderm and situated in the thoracic cavity and in between the two lungs and the slightly titled towards left. It has size of the kinkle first and the heart is covered by the double wall bag that is called pericardium and our heart is a four chamber and two relatively smaller upper chamber called and upper chamber called atria and lower chamber called ventricle. Two arteria has separated by the muscular wall and the called intra-arterial septum and the thick wall intravascular septum is called separated two ventricles. Okay, atrium and ventricle atrium and ventricle of the same side is separated by a thick fibrous tissue called the atrioventricular septum. Nine number है each of atrioventricular septa is provided with an opening through which the atrium and the ventrium of the same side are the connected called the atrioventricular opening. 10 number है right atrioventrium opening is guarded by the discusped halves and left atrioventricum opening is the guarded by the biscusped or mitral half valves. Okay, valves and the right ventricle open into the systematic aorta and the left ventricle open into the pulmonary aorta. Okay, both the aorta is guarded by the seminal valves. Okay, and the valves in the heart allowed unidirectional flow of the blood that is from the arteria and the ventricle from the ventricles to their respective aorta. Conductive system of human heart. The entire heart is made up of cardiac muscle and the wall of the ventricle is much thicker than the arteria and the patch of nodal tissue is present in the right upper corner of the right atrium and called sinoatrial nodes and SA nodes. Another nodal tissue present in the posterior to the interventricular septum and called AV node and the atrioventricular node. 5 number a bundle of nodal fiber and anteroventricular bundle and AV bundles continue as a V bundle through the interventricular septum and divided into the right and the left AV bundle called the bundle of heads. 6 number a bundle of his give rise to the profuse and the branches of the to the wall of the ventricles called the Purkinje fibers. Essay notes generated the force of the concentration of two rhythm- rhythmicity of heart and hence called peacemaker of the hearts. 8. Our heart normally beats 70 to 75 times in is minutes and average of heart 72 beats and per minus. कार्डियक साइकिल क्या होता है the cycle event takes place in the each heartbeat is called one cardiac cycle and let starts with all the four chamber of heart are in the relaxed state in the joint diastole and the tricipsud and the bicuspid and valves are opened and blood from the pulmonary veins, and the vein cava flow into the left and the right ventricles respectively through the left and the right arteria. Seminicular valves are the closed at the stages, and the SAN generated the action and the potentials which stimulate the concentration of the both arterial called the arterial systole. The increase the blood flow from the arteria to their respectively respective ventricles by the 30%, and the action potential of SAN passed to AVN, then the Purkinje fibers through AV bundles and initiate the ventricular systole, and the arteria undergo relaxation diastole. 8 number क्या है? During the ventricular systole, the intraventricular and blood pressure increases that the lead to the closing tricuspid and bicuspid, and valves lead to the production of first, and the sound is called lub sound. Okay, लब लब साउंड होता है, ठीक है इसको. Further increase in the pressure leads to the opening and seminicular valves, and the oxygenated blood from the left atrium pumped into the systematic aorta. Deoxygenated blood from the right atrium pumped into the pulmonary aorta. Ventricular system systole, and followed by the ventricular diastole, and the intraventricular blood pressure decreases leads to the closing semiannular and valves, causing the second heart sound dub. तो फर्स्ट साउंड जो होता है उसको लब कहते हैं, सेकंड साउंड को डब कहते हैं. तो हार्ट से पहले कौन साउंड आता है? लब, फिर डब, लब दब लब डब कहते हैं इसको, ठीक है, कोई दिक्कत. As the ventricular pressure decline further, there is a opening of bicuspid and tribicuspid valves, and the blood from the arteria flow into the ventricular freely. The ventricles and the arteria relax simultaneously, called a joint diastole. This sequential event in the heart, which cyclically and the repeated, called cardiac cycle. The heart beats 72 times per minute, and each cardiac cycle takes 0.8 seconds to complete. Okay, and during a cardiac cycle, the ventricle pumped 70 ml blood to the aorta and called stroke volume. तो स्ट्रोक वॉल्यूम क्या होता है, इसको ध्यान रखना, इस चीज़ को बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है. स्ट्रोक वॉल्यूम क्या होता है? तो एक टाइम में ब्लड जो होता है वो करीब मतलब जो वेंट्रिकल जो होता है वो करीब 70 ml ब्लड को ऑर्टा तक भेजता है, जिसको हम लोग स्ट्रोक वॉल्यूम कहते हैं. स्ट्रोक वॉल्यूम इज मल्टीप्लाइड बाय द हार्ट रेट एंड हार्ट beat per minute, and give us the cardiac output, and the cardiac output heart from the heart is 500 ml. Electrocardiograph ECG. ECG is a graphical representation of electrical activity of the heart during a cardiac cycle. Each peak in the ECG is identified with a letter from P to T that correspond to a specific electrical activity of the heart. The P wave represents the electrical excitation and or depolarization of atria. The QRS complex represent and depolarization of the ventricles. The ventricular contraction starts shortly after the Q and the mark beginning of the ventricular systole. And 6. T wave represent the ventricular diastole depolarization. डबल सर्कुलेशन पल्मोनरी सर्कुलेशन क्या होता है? राइट वेंट्रिकल डीऑक्सीजनेटेड ब्लड जो होता है वो पल्मोनरी आर्टरी जाता है, उसके बाद लंग्स, उसके बाद पल्मोनरी वेन्स, उसके बाद लेफ्ट आर्ट्रियम. ये हमारा सीक्वेंस है. सिस्टमेटिक सर्कुलेशन में क्या होता है? लेफ्ट वेंट्रिकम टू द सिस्टमेटिक ऑर्टा बॉडी, उसको डीऑक्सीजनेटेड ब्लड लेके, और वेना केवा वेना केवा यानी कि डीऑक्सीजनेटेड ब्लड को लेके राइट आर्ट्रियम तक जाता है. एंड द पोर्टल सिस्टम में क्या, डीऑक्सीजनेटेड ब्लड कलेक्ट फ्रॉम द organs and by the means of the veins and the portal veins, and entered into the another organ before it is delivered to the systematic circulation. Hepatic flow portal system क्या होता है? Hepatic portal veins carried deoxygenated blood from the intestine to the live before it delivered to the systematic and circulation by the means of hepatic veins. Coronary circulation. A special blood vessel, coronary vessel, is present in our mode exclusively for the circulation of the blood and to the form and the cardiac musculature. Okay, musculature या मस्कल्चर बोल सकते हो उसको. हाँ, उसके बाद हमारा रेगुलेशन ऑफ द कार्डियक एक्टिविटी. Rhythmicity of human heart is regulated by the specialized nodal tissue and hence heart is called myogenic, and a special neural center in the medulla oblongata and can be regulated cardiac function moderately. Neural signal through the sympathetic and nerves can increase the heart rate and the cardiac output. Neural sigma through the parasympathetics and these never can decrease the heart rate and the cardiac output. Hormones of adrenal medulla and also increase the cardiac input. Disorder of circulatory system. Hypertension is the term of the blood pressure and that is higher than the normal 120/80 and 120 mm of Hg, and is the systolic pressure, and the 80 Hg is the diastolic pressure, and सस्टेन द ब्लड प्रेशर 140 से 90 या फिर 40/90 और हायर सेड टू बी हाइपर टेंशन एंड ब्लड प्रेशर इज मेजर्ड बाय द स्फाइनोगोनोमो नैनोमीटर. ओके, क्या लिखा हुआ है? स्फाइवो मैनोमीटर्स. ओके, high blood pressure lead to the heart disease and also affect the vital organ like heart and kidney. ओके, इसको भी ध्यान रखना. उसके बाद है कोरोनरी आर्टरी डिजीज. क्या होता है? CAD CAD often referred as the atherosclerosis and affect the body blood supply to the heart muscle, and it caused by the deposition of calcium, fats, cholesterol, and the fibrous tissue, which make the lumen of the coronary artery narrow. Angina. Angina क्या होता है? Angina क्या होता है? Angina, it is also known as the angina pectoris and causes the acute chest pain due to the inadequate oxygen supply to the heart, and it occurs due to the blockade onto the coronary artery. Heart failure क्या होता है? It is the state of heart when the not pumping blood effectively or the cardiac change, heart stop beating, and the heart attack, the heart muscles damaged and suddenly by the inadequate blood supply and to the heart attack muscle. ओके गाइस, दिस चैप्टर हैज़ बी कम्प्लीटली फिनिश. आप इस क्वेश्चन को सॉल्व करके रखिएगा और बाय बाय एंड सी यू नेक्स्ट वीडियो. बट डोंट फॉरगेट इट, यू आर अ पार्ट ऑफ जर्नी ऑफ नीड्स, सो डोंट फॉरगेट एज यू कैन लाइक शेयर एंड सब्सक्राइब. जितना ज़्यादा हो सके लाइक शेयर और सब्सक्राइब कर दे और इस वीडियो को ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा फेमस कर दे. बाय बाय एंड सी यू नेक्स्ट वीडियो.